It's time for Recipe of the Day. I know that you've had chicken gravy, and I know that you've had turkey gravy and roast beef gravy, but have you had ham gravy? We are at the season of ham. Easter is right around the corner, and if you want to have something amazing with that ham, I highly recommend ham gravy. It is so delicious. I came to this much more recently in my life than the other gravies, but it is now truly one of my favorites. So I'm going to be telling you how to make ham gravy if you are doing a whole ham or half a ham. If you're roasting a ham, how to make gravy from that. But I'm also going to tell you how to make ham gravy if you have some bits of ham, like leftover ham, or you just want a ham flavored gravy with like flecks of ham in it. Think of it like sausage gravy or bacon gravy, those kinds of like breakfast gravy with flecks of meat. I'm telling you how to do that as well. So the easiest way to make ham gravy is if you are baking a ham. And so you do the ham exactly as you normally would. I will link to how to bake ham in the show notes, or go to Cook the Story and type in ham. I have some really great ham recipes for you there. And so you're going to be baking your ham, and you can do whatever glaze or normal thing that you would do on your ham. But crucially, you want to add some stock to the bottom of your roasting pan. You want at least 1/4 of an inch of stock down there. Now, don't worry, it's not going to affect anything. It's not going to make your meat steam or not cook properly. Nothing changes. But what that stock does is it stops anything from burning on the bottom of your roasting pan. So if any nice juicy drippings come off of your ham and they hit that hot roasting pan, the metal of that roasting pan, they are going to brown and often quickly burn onto there, and we don't want that. But even more importantly is if you have any kind of glaze on your ham, which we often do, that sugar in that glaze is definitely going to burn when it hits the pan. But if you have that broth or stock on the bottom of that pan, it's going to hit that liquid instead. It's going to disperse into the liquid. The liquid's going to evaporate a little bit and concentrate those flavors, so you get all those wonderful, juicy ham drippings and flavors from your glaze dripping down into that stock, and we're going to use that to make our gravy. 2 more things to say about the liquid that you're putting into that roasting pan. You want it to be unsalted stock or low sodium if at all possible, because ham is quite salty and the drippings coming out of that ham are going to be salty. So we don't necessarily want to use something that is also salty. Even water would be great here right now. Just 1/4 of an inch of water in your roasting pan, and then it's going to trap all those beautiful flavors. The other thing is, keep an eye on the amount of liquid in that pan. When you check on your ham, look at the liquid. What's happening is as it evaporates, it's actually caramelizing a little bit around the edges of the roasting pan. And so if you add in a little bit more water or stock, when you see that browning just above the water line, when you see that there, add a little bit more to go above that browning, and then put it back into the oven. As that ham continues to cook, as that water continues to simmer down in the bottom there, it's going to melt away that caramelization from the sides of the pan into your stock. So you're going to get that flavor there too. Then when your ham is at the temperature that you want, it is cooked, take that all out of the oven, transfer your ham to wherever you're transferring it to rest, and then use a rubber spatula to scrape down the sides of the pan and scrape up anything from the bottom. You can drizzle in a little bit more water or unsalted stock into the pan if that'll help loosen things up. Now, if it seems to you that there's a lot of fat in that liquid, you can pour it into a gravy separator or some kind of tall, narrow container. Let the fat rise to the top, and then you can use the fat in the gravy in place of some of the butter I'm about to talk to you about, or just scrape off the fat, or if you're using a gravy separator, fat separator, it'll pour off from the bottom. But in general, I find that not a ton of fat is coming off when I bake a ham, so I don't bother separating it for this gravy recipe, even though I quite often do when doing chicken gravy, turkey gravy, beef gravy, pork gravy. I usually am separating off the fat. I use some of the fat in making the gravy, but the rest of it gets discarded, and I just use the drippings that have had the fat floated to the top. Okay, next you are going to get out a medium saucepan and you're going to melt 3 tablespoons of butter into there, or however much fat that you got from your ham, or if you're using chicken fat or whatever it is, and then make up the difference with the butter. So you end up with 3 tablespoons of fat melting in your saucepan. Then whisk in 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and you want to whisk and cook until it's just starting to brown. You're over medium heat, not too high, not too low. It's going to take 1 to 2 minutes. Then I like to take the pot off of the heat when I start adding the drippings or the liquid into here. And that's because the main source of clumping in gravy when you get those flour clumps is if it's all cooking too fast and the flour is starting to like cook and clump before you've had a chance to properly whisk it. So if you take it off the heat, that helps a little bit with that. Take it off the heat and then drizzle a little bit of your ham drippings into there. You know what? I'm going to just back up and say you need 2 cups of ham drippings. So whatever you poured out of your roasting pan when we did that, it was the stock that you'd been adding or water you've been adding plus whatever had dripped off the ham. You need to measure that. And if you don't have 2 cups, you want to make up the difference with either some milk, some water, or some unsalted stock. So you need 2 cups of liquid. So you're going to drizzle a little bit of that 2 cups into your saucepan that's off the heat, whisking it into the flour and butter or flour and fat mixture. Whisk till it's smooth, then drizzle it a little bit more, whisk, drizzle a little more, whisk. The more you add, the more quickly you can continue to add it because the risk of clumping becomes less the more diluted the flour gets, okay? So you're just going to keep whisking and drizzling, and then once you've done that, you can put that back onto the heat, medium heat, and bring it up to a boil, then reduce the heat down to low, and simmer and cook until it's thickened a little bit, 2 to 3 minutes. Then you're going to stir in a 1/4 cup of heavy cream, warm that through for about 30 seconds, and then you can serve it right like that. Or if you're worried that there might be some lumps in there, you set a fine mesh sieve over a medium bowl and pour the gravy through the sieve. That'll strain away any of those flour clumps, and then you can serve that gravy. You can serve that on your ham, on your baked ham for dinner, or you can have it on some biscuits for breakfast one morning. It has a really, really strong, tasty ham flavor right to the gravy, so it goes perfectly with any breakfast foods or any ham dinner foods for sure. Oh, I almost forgot. I promised that I would tell you how to make ham gravy even if you are not baking a ham. It's totally possible. You melt 2 tablespoons of butter in a medium saucepan over medium heat and then add 3 ounces of chopped ham to there. And you're going to cook, stirring occasionally until it's well browned. Sprinkle that with 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Stir and cook for a moment. Then slowly drizzle in 2 cups of unsalted chicken or vegetable stock. Bring it to a boil over high heat. Reduce it down to a simmer, cook until it's thickened, and then you can pour in some of that heavy cream, a 1/4 cup. So you'll get that ham flavor one way or another, I promise. Okay, I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is April 17th of 2025. I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.